Tony Shields, Rob Ellis, hanging with you. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Hope you're doing great. Hope you had a great holiday over the weekend. All right, let's look at the defensive side of the ball, Tone. Eagles win 33-25. And really, if you take away those turnovers, which do not fall on the defense, the pick six doesn't fall on the defense, the special teams issue does not fall on the defense. Yeah, They really gave us 10 points. The only problem is with the 10 points was in my opinion, was the late, what was it, 69 or 70 yards, whatever it was, to Darius Slayton, and just allowing the Giants, they get down to, I think, the 25 on that final drive as well, which ended up in the Ringo pick at the very end. You just like to see them be able to snuff out some of those teams, especially, you're talking about a team that really is limited. You get fortunate with a Waller drop. Boy, what a terrible that move that was for them. They traded for him. Not only is he just not that good, he's hurt all the time. On top of it, he doesn't make plays.
Yeah, the Giants, I mean, they're just a dumpster fire of just bad decisions and misallocated resources. But you bring up a good point. The Eagles defense, all things considered, they really only gave up 10 points. Pick six and then opening kickoff at halftime. I mean, the Eagles got to be better than that. I think that was easily the worst special teams blunder of the season. The special teams has done a pretty good job of protecting the football. Mm-hmm. I mean, even Britton Covey had a little bit of a bobble at one point in the game.
He did. Yeah, he got on it, but you're right. It was a sketchy moment there for a second.
Right. So special team came with its highs, but it definitely had its lows that led directly to points. And then, the Goddard slip led directly to points. So mistakes on the special teams and mistakes on offense led directly to 15 points or 14 points for the New York Giants. You can't make those mistakes against good teams.
Yeah.
Period. You just can't. Yeah. Because you won't be able to recover from them. Overall defense, though, I mean, you held the Giants to under how many total yards? Under 200 yards, something like that. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, all in all, you didn't. I mean, Saquon had to.
Held it under 300 yards. Held it in 292. Held it in 59 plays. 4.9 yards per play. Held him to 186 passing yards. 106 rushing yards. I mean, not bad numbers at all.
No. Saquon had to earn it. So, Tone, he had 23 carries for 80 yards. That's 3.5. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take that as well.
Yeah, and what you don't like is Slayton had the 69 yarder, and his numbers look inflated from that. 3 catches, 90 yards. Right? Nobody else really did much else for the most part for them. And Tommy DeVito showed you what he is. Tyrod Taylor, he's a third stringer. He's a backup. It's.
Right. That's why I said last week, I'm not worried about the Giants. The Eagles are going to find a way to make the game.
That's the problem. Yes, and the Giants. The Eagles were like,
the Giants didn't do anything.
No.
Let's make this clear too. I don't want people to get us misconstrued here. The Giants are terrible. They didn't do anything at all to win that game. But the Eagles gave them every opportunity, for the Christmas Day miracle.
Yes,
gave them every opportunity. So, I mean, do with that what you will. But me. That's a big problem for me. That's a hallmark of concerns. Like it's embedded on them all year long, making these kind of mistakes. Think we lost my guy Rob here. Rob, you there? Let's make sure we got this thing going. All right, but nonetheless, I think we lost Rob for a second. But Eagles fans. I mean, I look at this. I look at this Eagles team as a team that's way better than what they've shown us. And quite frankly, when I look at the quarter, let's stay on defense. When I look at the linebackers, right, Shaq Leonard had a good game. He played well. Reed Blankenship, you can't over pursue like that. It took him forever to get out of his back pedal. So there we go. I think we lost Rob. So we're going to try to keep this thing going, you guys. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate you guys for locking in on Sports Take for as long as you guys have. So I look at this team as a team that's better than what they are, but on the defensive side, right? when you look at them from top to bottom from a personnel standpoint, are they as good as we think they are? Are they as good as we expect them to be? No and no. So in the offseason, they're going to have a lot of questions. How do they handle the cornerback position, right? How good is Keely Ringo? Do they draft the corner in the first round? Safety, how good are they at safety? Is Reed Blankenship the long-term answer, right? He's played decent throughout the season, but he's had his own set of issues with health, so on and so forth. The defensive line not being able to get home, right? 1 second against the Giants, is that really it? And there were plenty of moments in that game where I thought to myself, okay, they got DeVito dead to rights, or they got Tyrod Taylor dead to rights. So when you factor all those things in, how can we take this team seriously in the playoffs? Aside from the logo, aside from the colors, aside from our allegiance, when you're watching the product on the field, how can we take this team serious? When you're going to have to potentially go on the road for a playoff game, you're going to potentially place or face the 49ers or face the Cowboys, right? You may have to face one of these dangerous teams on the back end, like the Lions or the Buccaneers. I'm not saying the Lions or the Buccaneers are as good as the Eagles, but what I am saying is the Eagles haven't shown an ability to consistently put teams away. They allow teams to hang around, and that's not a trait that you want to have going into the playoffs. If you've got a team down 20-3, you should win that game by double digits at the very least. The Cowboys, or I'm sorry, the Giants should have never been in this game in any way. Remember, the Giants did nothing to win this game. They were unimpressive, they were uninspiring, and they took advantage of opportunities that the Eagles gave them. Remember that, you guys. These are the opportunities that the Eagles are creating for the opponent. And they've been doing it for the most part all year, right? Jalen Hurts with 18 turnovers on the season. 18. It's 2 games left. Will he have 20 turnovers on the season? Help me out, Eagles fans. Help me out. At this rate, Jalen Hurts has 18 turnovers on the season. Will he have 20 by the end of the season? Will he have 20? It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. A fumble there, a tip ball there. It's entirely possible. So when you factor all those things in, we got to look at this team very measured. Like, we got to look at them as a team who may not be as good as we thought they were. We're gonna have to really evaluate that. Now, I'm not telling you guys to enter every game not confident, right? Because once the game starts, anything can happen. And who knows? But right now, there's a disconnect between what the Philadelphia Eagles are showing us versus what they want to do. There's a disconnect in that locker room. I just have a hard time believing this team, as it's personally built, as they're playing, can go deep into the playoffs. I think, and let me make this clear too. I would love to be proven wrong. And I was all in on the Philadelphia Eagles. As a matter of fact, I was actually willing to throw the Philadelphia Eagles some bail even after the 2-game losing streak against the Cowboys and the Niners. I was willing to throw them bail. But when you throw in the Seahawks loss, Rob,
yeah,
I mean, it's hard to take them seriously. And then you find a way to make things interesting against the Giants. I mean, right now, what they've displayed defensively, offensively, over the past 4 games, hasn't been inspiring.
No, I mean, I think that just to pick up on your point, I don't know if I'm the only one. Tell me if you did or people in the chat as well. If you had visions of Drew Lock marching them down the field, I had visions of Tyrod Taylor potentially taking them down for a game winner yesterday, and it was stuck in my head. Yeah, I mean, look, defensively, there's a couple things here, Tone. I think that you could certainly be encouraged by Shaq Leonard. 7 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss. They probably are getting Avonte Maddox back this week. It looks like Ringo can play. You're going to get Slay back at some point. Maybe you can really minimize Bradbury. maybe. I don't
When
know
you
that they're
say
going to be willing.
minimize, what do you mean?
Hide him a little bit more. I think he'll still start. He's making too much money not to start. He's too
Right.
prideful.
Right.
But maybe you can not have him on the field in massive situations. I don't know. I don't know that they're ready to trust Ringo to that extent. But if you get Maddox back, I think it'll settle things down a little bit back there in the secondary.
Possible.
Problem you have is that the safety. There's safety issues with them in general, but Shaq Leonard played well. I'm still frustrated in general, even though I thought Reddick had a good game, 4 QB hits and a tackle for a loss. You can't just have one sack. You can't have one sack against that Giants team. That's something that they have to get better at. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think in general, there has to be that ability to be finishers too. And like, the Giants shouldn't have gotten down the field on you like that. It should have just been a 3 and out, put them away and run it, run the clock out like you were able to do a lot of times last year and a couple times earlier this season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not there. And look, I think we have every right to be sort of, even though they've won a ton of games this year, I think we have every right to be critical the way it looks, even with a win. That's what we are. That's what we do. We're not just willing to be sheep and just say, hey, they won. You got to take a deeper dive into this thing, again, especially this time of year.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at other teams like the Ravens, who are playing spectacular right now. Despite the ugly loss, 49ers are still a team that you have to respect. Cowboys, same thing. Lions, same thing. We talked about the Rams. They're coming on. The Buccaneers, they're coming on as well. I mean, those teams, you might have to run up against one or two of them in the playoffs. Like it all has to be taken into consideration. So,
yep.
When I look at it from that perspective, I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think they're relatively safe against anybody. Any matchup they get in the playoffs, that team can beat them. I believe that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I don't think they're a lock against anybody. I think the other thing, I see somebody in the chat saying he's making too much money not to start. It's that type of pathetic thinking that has us in this position, play the best players. What I think you have to be able to understand is what I'm telling you I think they may do versus what I would do are two different things. You have to be able to draw that distinction and understand nuance. So what I'm saying is,
Rob, that kind of thinking is too complex.
Yeah, how dare we? But no, I think Bradbury's an accident waiting to happen. I would love to see him not get as many opportunities. But if you're asking me what I think they'll do, I think they'll keep starting Bradbury. That's what I think. But no, you're right, Tone. So if you look at the NFC East right now, and let's go through, and we're going to do this a little bit more in depth in a minute. But if you look at the teams that would be in right now, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So who would be in right now? Right now, the 1 seed would be the Niners. The 2 seed would be the Eagles. The 3 seed would be the Detroit Lions. 4 seed would be Tampa. Tampa's starting to play pretty decent, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is 5. The Rams are 6, and Seattle 7. Okay, that's where your cutoff is. So San Fran gets the bye if things end it right now. The Eagles would get Seattle at home. I feel like the Eagles would beat them at home. But if you're telling me lock it in, automatic, you don't have to sweat this thing. Like I felt like last year when the Eagles played the Giants in the first round, I don't feel the same way. I do think the Eagles would win that game, but I don't. But if you look at the rest of those teams, again, this is a team that beat them. In fairness, they beat them earlier in the year. Los Angeles is hot as hell right now. Dallas, a lot of it depends on where you get them, but if you get them at home, you feel better. But I don't feel like that's a lock. I would feel good against the Eagles versus Tampa. Detroit to me that could go a lot of different ways, and then there's San Fran, who I think they would lose to. Like if you're just asking me right now. So to your point, there isn't anyone I go in saying, man, look at the way they've struggled against bad teams. I don't know how you would feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm looking at this team as looking at them as a team who has to prove it every single week. Like, can you imagine them going into the first round, wild card weekend, playing Seattle and losing that game? Can you imagine that?
No, that would really That would be hideous, and it would not go over well. And I think there would be some type of change. What I mean by that is I don't think they would fire Nick Sirianni, but I think there would be some changes made internally if something like that happened, because, and I appreciate this to a degree. There isn't a ton of patience in that front office. There is and there isn't. Like, in other words, I'll give them credit. They rewarded Michael Clay with an extension, and he has rewarded them with a very good special teams season. Good on the Eagles for doing that, for seeing what he was. But we've already seen them pull the plug on Sean Desai. We saw them move on from Doug Peterson, 3 years after he won a Super Bowl. So nothing is guaranteed and nothing is forever. So if this is a collapse situation and you lose at home in wild card round to Seattle, heads are going to roll, man. Make no mistake. Heads will roll.
Right. And I'm looking at it like it's all possible. It's all on the table. It's the least amount of confidence I had in his team over the past 2 years because of how they've handled themselves and because of the internal issues with the coaching staff and the lack of identity on offense. I think, okay, it's so funny. On the defensive side, right? They're going to be getting Maddox back before the playoffs. Yeah. They're going to get Zach Cunningham back in time for the playoffs. What do you think is the recipe for this defense in the playoffs? And obviously it's matchups. Obviously it's matchup specific. But what do you think? What do you think this defense needs to happen? What do they need to happen on the defense side? First, from the
sack the quarterback. You got to sack the quarterback. All right, number one, you're built to sack the quarterback. You put all your money into sacking the quarterback. You got to sack the quarterback. That's the first thing. The second thing is they got to be a little bit better at taking the ball away. I mean, I don't expect them to all of a sudden become good, so I'm setting the bar really low, but occasionally get a freaking pick. They got one last night on the last play of the game. That's fine. I'm talking about, something that impacts the game earlier. I want to see that. I want to see them get off the field on third down. Let me look at third downs last night. In fact, that's something I should have looked at.
Last night, the Giants were 4 for 14 on third down.
Okay, so I mean that's a good number. That's good. That is good. I'm encouraged to hear that. Giants 4 for 14. Yeah, so that's good. So I would say those three things. Tone, get to the quarterback. Occasionally force something where you give your offense a short field, where they don't have to go 75 yards every single time, and then get off the field on third down. Those three. If you get those three at a serviceable level, the offense should be able to do enough to get you wins. I
agree. And that's why the Covey punt return was so huge, right? It gave them the spark they needed. It was the first time in a while where we saw some complimentary football.
Right.
They're going to need that. They're going to need for this Philadelphia Eagles team to go the distance more than ever. They're going to need all three phases. Excuse me. They're going to need all three phases working together. Special teams is going to have to find a way to create short fields for this offense. Defense has to find a way to not only get up the field on third down, but when possible, cause a freaking turnover or two. Make a play.
Yes.
And then offense, you have to sustain drives to keep your defense off the field because that's your weakness.
Yes.
If you can find a way to hide your weakness by keeping them off the field long enough, then you can win games. So I think that's how they need to carve out their identity instead of believing they are what they aren't. You have to find a way to keep that defense off the field for as long as humanly possible. If you want to have any chance of making a deep playoff run, the defense is not going to win games for you. We're going to make that abundantly clear at this point. We're never going to set ourselves up for that kind of failure, Eagles fans. The defense, I'm saying this, and I'm sticking by this. The defense is not going to be the one to win you a game. They're not.
It's going to be the offense. Yeah.
If it happens, oh wow, hey man, that's a plus, cherry on top. But am I going into games at any point for the remainder of the season and playoffs counting on this defense to be the reason why they win? Hell no. So I think it's going to be imperative for all three of those phases to work together so the defense can be so the defense can be hidden as much as possible. They're not going to be the reason you win, but they could be every reason why you lose.
Yeah, I think it's well said. And I think that's a realistic way to look at it. What would you want the defense to look like the Ravens? Yeah, that's not who they are this year. So, and even the way they looked last year, it's just not who they are. So they're not built that way. But give your offense a fighting chance. Give your offense shorter fields, those kind of things. Just do that. If you're able to do those kind of things, I do think the offense is capable. Look, Tone, they may fool us, man. We may get to the postseason and all of a sudden there's some kind of different, just focus or dial in. It's happened before. It's possible. Do I think it's realistic? Probably not. To expect it to happen after we haven't seen it all year.
Yep. Possible, yes. Probable, probably not.
Yeah, there's the P words are very different in that case. But what I'm going to glean out of Monday, it doesn't just feel like a Monday, by the way.
It feels off.
I was so screwed up yesterday. Yesterday felt like a Sunday to me, right? And
yes, man. I'm with you on that, man. Like Christmas on a Monday is like the weirdest thing on planet Earth.
Like I caught myself like 3 or 4 times yesterday and a bunch of times today. Like, dude, it's Tuesday. Like, lock it in here, But anyway, but what I was saying, that I'm going to take out of this thing. Shaq Leonard looks like he's something. You're getting Avonte Maddox back. Ringo looks like he's starting to figure it out. And, beyond that, I still believe that there's more to be gotten from Josh Sweat. I still believe there's more to be gotten from the interior guys, the young kids, Jordan Davis and Carter. And, I don't know, frankly, how much more there is to tap into with BG at this juncture in his career. I hope he's all of a sudden, man, it's like, it's playoff time now. I don't have to hold back anything. There's no preserving. Let's go. And then maybe in that case, we're going to see a different looking Brandon Graham because he is a clutch player too. He's been through these battles for 100 years. So maybe that looks a little bit different. So there's some of the things that I'm looking for. You broke down, and we broke down like 3 things that we could really look for the defense to do. These are individuals that I'm looking at that could really step up for this team come this time of year.
Yeah. Jordan Davis says something really interesting. He says, I know we're stressing a lot of people out at home, but he said, I know we're stressing people out at home. We needed it bad. I can't emphasize enough how much we needed a W. Yeah. That's a person that gets it. That's a person that understands where this team is right now. Mm-hmm. He has self-awareness, right? He knows that this thing has been riding on the most unreliable wheels that you could think about. But he knows how bad they needed that win to kind of shift just the dynamic, shift the energy, right?
You did. I mean, you did stem the tide. Like the bleeding was stopped, and everybody can take a deep breath. Like that's the good thing. As ugly as it was, it's not panic city. It's concern, and there's a difference between the P and the C there.
Yeah, I don't want to say the bleeding has stopped. I'd much rather say they finally put pressure on the damn thing.
Okay, that's fair. The cut isn't healed. It's not healed, but at least it's not dripping down your arm at this point.
They finally put pressure on it. Yeah, they're on their way to the hospital.
Urgent care.
They're on their way. Will they make it in time?
Yeah.
Can we save this victim?
No.
We're going to find out, you guys.
Coach Marcus, I agree and I disagree. I agree, Fletch. Fletch has been awesome all year. Awesome. I want him back. I absolutely want him back. And I love BG. So I'm not crushing the guy. I'm just saying I would have liked a little bit more. And I know it's difficult with him because he doesn't get the reps. And I can appreciate that. That's what I meant by that was maybe they'll take all the harnesses off and let him get, some more snaps here in the playoffs, and we'll see more from him. So I will certainly give BG. He has been too great a player for this organization for me not to give him a little leeway, for sure. So I'm hoping that that's the case.
And there are also teams that maybe they're having a rough go of it in the season, but there are teams who just operate well in the playoffs. Like the Chiefs, I know they're struggling right now, but when they get to the playoffs,
count them out. Yep.
Don't count them out.
Yep.
Don't count them out at all.
I agree.
And hopefully,
and then maybe we should give the Eagles some of that benefit of the doubt.
And that's exactly where I'm going with it. Hopefully, the Philadelphia Eagles can provide us with enough, can provide enough to where they're that kind of team in the playoffs as well. Yeah, things have kind of been a
Totally.
struggle, but now that they're in, okay, it's a different gear, it's a different way that we approach preparation, and hopefully, that can lead to the Eagles being more successful.
I can buy that. I can totally buy that. All right. We'll come back. We'll look at a couple other things. There are guys that are unhappy. AJ Brown, Devontae, some of the other things that need to be cleaned up a little bit here. And we'll give some props out too, to some guys who were unsung. I'm giving special teams love, because I thought between Covey, Braden Mann, Elliott, other than the botch on the kickoff, I think special teams has been a real bright spot the entire year for this team. So we'll hit it. We'll come back. We'll dive further in this. We'll do a full-blown NFL segment too, as we always do, coming up in a little bit. I want to tell you about Pro Action Restoration. In fact, my guy Tony is here right now painting the basement. That's why I got the tree set up for you right there, showing off the tree. But yeah, I had, as you guys know, from listening to the show, had some flooding in the house, had all kinds of issues, and Pro Action Restoration was absolutely incredible. So if you go through the pain, the inconvenience of water, fire, smoke, mold damage to your property, your home, excuse me, a business that you may own, they are on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. Pro Action Restoration is also licensed, bonded, fully insured, serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So it could be any of these and then some. If you're not sure, reach out. But water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, they can handle it. But if you're not sure about something, give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at